If we could learn to love each other universally, that would change the world. And so the way Wayfarer is changing the world is by showing the nobility of one person at a time, one film at a time. Will and Harper, Ezra, now with Hello Darkness. We're showing these very different human beings in very different situations, but showing the common thread through all our films is showing that each person is noble.
Life finds a way.
Life's not fair, is it?
Life moves pretty fast.
Life is a bank.
Busy living.
What we do in life?
Way of life.
Life is pain.
Choose life.
To live would be an awfully big adventure.
Welcome to the Movie of Your Life with Richard Roeper. This is a podcast where we talk about movies and how they impact your life and how you're the star of the movie of your life. Sometimes you're a supporting player. Sometimes you might even be the villain. We have a very special guest today, Jennifer Weigel, my producer and co-host. Take it away.
Steve Sarowitz is the Billionaire founder and chairman of Paylocity, the Illinois-based payroll and human resources software company that he launched in 1997. Paylocity grew from a startup into one of the country's leading cloud-based payroll and workforce management companies. It went public in 2014, making Sarowitz one of the Chicago area's most successful entrepreneurs. He's pledged much of his fortune to charitable causes, focused on education, economic opportunity, and social impact. In 2019, Sarowitz partnered with actor-director Justin Baldoni to launch Wayfarer Studios, an independent production company dedicated to stories intended to inspire empathy, connection, and social change. Sarowitz serves as chairman and principal financial backer of that company. Sarowitz also owns and operates Wayfarer Theaters, boutique cinema venues that are designed to serve as community gathering places and alternatives to traditional multiplexes. Steve, welcome to the show.
Well, Steve, I got to start off. We have a couple of elephants in the room that you've had to deal with for the last couple of years, and then we're going to get into all the stuff you're doing, all the projects you're passionate about. But we just had Justin and Emily Baldoni issue this extraordinary statement that is getting all this worldwide attention.
What I will say is that there have been so many painful things that have been spoken into existence.
Untruthful.
Over the last couple years. And that created so much noise, and we didn't want to add to the noise. So we just wanted to let the justice system run its course.
Where they talked about how their faith is getting them through this and how they appreciate all the support. And there were lots of things that can be said. And I know you have a lot of things that you would like to say about this, and there are certain things you can't say. But I just want to start off by asking you, what is your takeaway from these last 2 years? What have you learned about yourself, about your friendship with Justin, and about the business?
Well, I have told everyone who wanted to listen that Justin's a great guy. He's innocent of anything he was accused of. Jamie and Justin were both accused falsely, and we were vindicated. And so I'll say that. I'm happy we're through this. It's been very painful. It's been very expensive. I don't wish anybody ill. I just want to go on with my life and move on and past this. And we're thankful. I am very thankful for my Baha'i faith. That's really helped me a lot. Having faith is really important. And I really hope that those who are struggling with things like honesty and truthfulness can learn to be better people.
You know, I have to say, as an outsider, just observing this, and I read, the New York Magazine piece, which went into great detail. And I know it's for you to be in the New York Times and see things written about you that you may not always agree with or don't think are true or not true. But, my takeaway too, Steve, was this became this runaway train where nobody benefited at some point from this, and it was just such a shame because it was an important movie, a big movie with serious messaging, and it just became something else.
We have made now, as of this year, it'll be 20 movies. And we do movies about people showing the nobility of every human being. And it ends with us as one of those movies. I don't want to be known for the controversy. I want to be known as someone who tried to make good movies and tried to make the world a better place. To me, the controversy was a lot. It was much ado about nothing. There really was no wrong done. The wrong was done to us. There was a smear campaign against us for over a year. There was a smear campaign against me personally. A lot of things were said about me personally, which weren't true. Those kind of lies bother me. However, let's move on. let's move on, wish everyone well. There's no reason to fight. We as Baha'is, we believe in peace and unity, and I would like to move on and have that. Uh, Fortunately, our company was protected from the worst of it. 10 out of 13 of the claims were thrown out. We were able to settle without paying any money. Uh, I think that's a victory for us. It's a very difficult, long, and hard fought victory. Uh, I don't really care to make, two wrongs don't make a right. For me to say terrible things about another human being is not going to help the situation.
One of the things I really admired about the video that Justin and Emily put out is they talked about how they felt their faith was stronger than ever before. That, you have to have trials, no matter what your faith may be, Rob. It's always about, everybody can go through the great times and it can be easy, but they talked about their faith, their family. Do you feel the same way? Has your faith been strengthened by all this? And in particular, your friendship with Justin?
Yes. In hard times, you know who your friends are. I stuck by Justin 100% every step of the way. My faith was strong going into this. My faith is strong coming out of this. I live to try and make humanity a better place. And I do that with my philanthropy. I do it with films. I'm not here to try and cause problems. And now we're doing everything we can to exit it as peacefully as possible.
I know you're so excited about some new projects
I
that
am.
are on the landscape.
I am.
And we'll get to a lot of movie questions, but can you give us a sneak peek about what you're working on right now?
We just finished filming a film called Dinner with Audrey, which is a beautifully shot film about Audrey Hepburn and how she meets Givenchy, who becomes her designer, and they have their wonderful friendship for decades. It's really a unique film. There's never been a film about Audrey Hepburn this way. Our other film that we're producing right now and filming in New York is my personal favorite, is Hello Darkness, and it's about a young man at the time in 1960, a true story about a man named Sandy Greenberg. And Sandy was 19 years old. He was tall, athletic, handsome. He had the world by its tail. He was going to Columbia, doing great, and he went blind. He went home to Buffalo, New York, where his parents lived, and he thought his life was over. His roommate Arthur came to Buffalo and said, "You're my best friend. I can't live without you." And he literally dragged Sandy, kicking and screaming, back to Columbia. He got a team of people to read to him, to take him to class. And Sandy, he slept 4 hours a night. He studied nonstop. He became class president. He graduated summa cum laude. He ended up going to Harvard to get a master's degree. He went to Oxford and got a PhD, came back to the States, became a presidential fellow under Lyndon B. Johnson. Then he became an inventor, an entrepreneur, a millionaire, and a philanthropist, all while blind.
And his friend Arthur had a career of his own.
Well, Arthur was supposed to become an architect, but thanks to Sandy, he didn't do that. Sandy reminded him that he had a very good singing voice. And he said, "You had a friend you sang with in high school," but Arthur was fighting with his friend. And Sandy said life was too short and to forgive his friend, which Arthur did. And his friend wrote a beautiful song. And it actually starts with how Arthur used to greet Sandy. "Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again." And Sandy paid $400 for Arthur and his friend Paul to record that song. I don't know if you ever heard it.
Little
Amazing.
Simon and Garfunkel.
Amazing. Yeah, those guys went out. And speaking of movies, of course, The Graduate, The Sounds of Silence and all those other beautiful songs. But that movie, Steve, it sounds like, I hate to use the term awards bait, but it sounds like a prestige project. It's not like sounds something like The Miracle Worker, which was the Helen Keller story, or A Beautiful Mind, because it's a true story, but it's made for the movies.
It's more than The Miracle Worker. It's actually my goal. I have a few movies that I love from the 90s and early 2000s, movies like Good Will Hunting and Shawshank Redemption. And I always said, I want to make a movie that good. I want to make a movie that good. And this was the best script we'd ever read. We were literally, all of us, in tears when we read the script. It's an incredible story. I've told this story to dozens and dozens of people, and every one of them says, "I want to see that movie." Hopefully, we can get the right people behind it, and we would love to get a lot of people to see this movie. The thing about this movie, musical biopics, they do okay. They generally do okay. Think of A Complete Unknown, of the Springsteen one. They typically do okay. This is a little unusual because this movie really isn't about Simon and Garfunkel, although it is, because Art Garfunkel is one of the major characters, but it's really pre-Simon and Garfunkel. It's this incredible story of this blind man overcoming all seemingly unsurmountable obstacles. And then on top of it, oh, by the way, this launched one of the greatest singing groups of all time. We're not doing it for the awards. If we get an award, great. We're doing it to make a great movie that inspires humanity. And Sandy Greenberg's story is inspiring. This really is a movie about Sandy Greenberg, who refused to be categorized as a blind man and said, I'm going to be a human being and I'm going to live my life as if I wasn't blind. And then he did it. And he listened to his list of achievements. Art is there too. Art is there supporting him and he's supporting art. But it's about a beautiful friendship.
Yeah.
It's about a young man who refused to give up. And then on top of it, it's about the genesis of one of the greatest singing groups of all time.
Yeah.
I've been watching the dailies. In fact, I was watching some right before I came here, and it is amazing on the screen. The acting is great. Sam, who's playing Sandy, is doing a great job. Levon, who's the son of Uma Thurman and Ethan Hawke, is playing Art. He's doing a great job. And we, of course, have the great Laura Linney. So amazing acting.
Tony Goldwyn is your director.
Well, Tony Goldwyn, everyone loves Tony, and I can see why watching him masterfully direct this. Tony Spiridakis, who wrote the wonderful movie Ezra for us, is the writer, and I told him write an even better script than Ezra, and Tony did it. So they're all putting their heart and soul into this. I believe it's going to be a great movie, not just a good movie, but a great movie. One thing about Wayfarer, we show the innate nobility in every human being. In Ezra, we showed the innate nobility of a father struggling to connect with his autistic son, and the innate nobility of that son, and the mother too. They're all fighting. Each person, even the grandpa, who was played by the wonderful Robert De Niro in that film, he had his own problems. So we're showing the nobility of people who struggle. In Code 3, with the wonderful Rainn Wilson, we showed paramedics in a script written by paramedics.
She was just fine when I checked on her a few minutes ago.
A few minutes ago, really? Shake her hand. Go over and shake her hand. Do it.
I'm good.
One of the greatest days of my life. I was at the Baha'i Temple guiding this guy, and I mentioned that we'd made that movie. I said, have you seen this movie? And he almost teared up. He loved the movie so much. He was a paramedic. And he said, you put me on the screen. And so when I have an actual paramedic say, you saw me, you showed me, that's what Wayfarer is around for. We've showed people of color, we've racist trees, trying to show people struggling with racism. We show a woman struggling with ageism in Eleanor the Great. So each
June
of our
Squibb with the great June Squibb.
Yeah, the great 94-year-old June
Amazing,
Squibb leading a movie, which
for
is
the first time after 60, 70 years of being a great character actor.
and to say this, I also don't want to say everyone in Hollywood is terrible to work with. I found most people in Hollywood great to work with. The great majority of people. Scarlett Johansson, I know I've probably said this one too many times, but it bears repeating. She was wonderful. She did a great job with the movie. She was wonderful to work with. This whole idea that everyone in Hollywood is a diva is not true. There are a lot of nice people in Hollywood. And when I hear about someone who's nice in Hollywood, De Niro was great to work with. Will Ferrell, we did a wonderful movie with him that I'm very proud of called Will and Harper.
Yeah, great documentary.
I love this country so much. I just don't know if it loves me back right now.
Harper, would you want to do a road trip as this new version of yourself and at the same time figure out what this all means to us?
I'm really proud of the body of work we've done. Just because we've had one problem doesn't mean that we haven't accomplished great things. The most important thing is to become a good person. And some of these hard knocks that we get are really, really blessings. And so as Justin said in his, and Emily said, they're grateful, and I share that gratitude. I'm grateful for some of the hard knocks I've experienced because it's made me a better person. It's made me more appreciative. If nothing ever goes wrong in your life, how can you empathize with people? And so since, the last couple of years have been really tough on me, really hard. And I'm happy for that experience so I can be a better human being and hopefully learn from it and help me contribute more to the betterment of humanity.
We're going to take a break. This is The Movie of Your Life with Richard Roeper. We'll be right back.
The Movie of Your Life podcast with Richard Roeper is brought to you by Wayfarer Theaters. Wayfarer Theaters has 2 locations, one in Highland Park, Illinois, and one in Payson, Utah. For all showtimes, go to wayfarertheaters.com. Not only do they show your blockbusters just around the block, but live events and even live comedy. Remember, wayfartheaters.com, click on events to find all those special and unique opportunities near you. Welcome back to the movie of your life. We are joined by Steve Sarowitz. Now, Steve, just last night at one of your theaters, it was a packed house with a local comedian who was a dentist in the community. Like, this is another hat that you wear that I love so much because you want to bring the community together as a place where we laugh, where we gather. How did it go?
It was amazing. Actually, I was going to tell you a little story. When I was young, and I'm so old now, I can't even remember it. But when I was 7, I lived in New Jersey, and we had a rabbi by the name of, because I grew up Jewish, and we had a rabbi by the name of Rabbi Mazer, who was very funny. And he had a brother who was also a rabbi, who was even funnier. And he was so funny that people told him he should be a comedian. So he changed his name to Mason from Mazer, and he became a professional comedian. I don't know if you heard of
Mason?
Jackie Mason, yeah. So Jackie
Incredible.
Mason's brother was my rabbi. So
I don't even hear that voice. I'm not going to do a bad Jackie Mason impersonation or his brother, but that's incredible.
So I thought of that when the very funny dentist, he filled the theater last night. And 81, he's got a second career.
That's amazing. Well, as Jennifer mentioned, you have a couple of theaters in Highland Park, and the other one is in
Payson, Utah.
And that's kind of an interesting thing too, is you're a filmmaker, and then you actually have these theaters. Is that a joy for you to actually have these brick and mortar theaters that people come to?
Well, every business has its challenges, but I love the idea. Like last night when we had a full theater and it was wonderful. Many people on the way out thanked me for what I've done for the town of Highland Park. I'm really happy with how the theater's going in Payson. I have a lot of, Payson is a pretty big LDS town, or you might call them Mormons. I have a great relationship in general, with the LDS community. I serve on the board of Angel Studios, which is about 20 minutes away. So one of the reasons we chose to buy the theater in Payson is because it's so near to Angel. And I have just a great, wonderful relationship with the Angel team as a member of the board and as a friend of theirs.
I want to go back and talk about the Audrey Hepburn film, because I think with something like that, casting would be so important. Has that been cast?
Thomasin McKenzie just does a brilliant job playing Audrey. You really think it's the real Audrey Hepburn. She is a phenomenal actress. And Ansel Elgort does a wonderful job as Givenchy. Did I say it right?
You did.
Okay. You know, I've been saying it wrong for a long time, but they do a wonderful job together. And the thing about this movie is the movie itself is a work of art. The way it's shot. And of course, a movie about Audrey Hepburn would have to be like that because, you know, what I really like about Audrey Hepburn, I guess love about her, is she was such a class act in so many ways. As a human being, she was not just a wonderful actress, which she was, but she was also a wonderful human being. Did you ever get to meet her?
I did. Very early in my career, there was a cruise line that was doing like their inaugural cruise, and they hired Audrey Hepburn, or had her to, break the champagne on the bow of the ship, whatever they do, and then was on the cruise. I couldn't believe they also hired Gavin MacLeod from the Love Boat to be, but he wasn't the actual captain on that cruise, but he dressed as the captain the whole time. But Steve, for someone like,
that is such a contrast, Gavin MacLeod and Audrey Hepburn.
I was like, oh my God, I hope Isaac the bartender isn't here as well, and Gopher. But
Gopher became a politician.
Yeah, Fred Gandy,
Yeah.
congressman. But what you said about Audrey Hepburn, I was so starstruck because she was that Hollywood royalty, and as you mentioned, this amazing movie star who pretty much voluntarily decided that she was going to do other things and did all this work with UNICEF and hunger and trying to eradicate a lot of the things that are important to you. Also was an animal lover, and she dedicated the better part of her life after she was so famous to using her name and her great grace and image for good, which is really cool. So I'm really excited to see this film. I have in my home office a poster, a print of Grace Kelly and Audrey Hepburn backstage at the Oscars. I want to say like 1955, because that to me is like the epitome of Hollywood glamour right there.
That's two amazing women. In one shot. Either one of them would be amazing. The two of them together is amazing.
I want to ask you too, though, on top of you talked about Hello Darkness, and it's a period piece. And you're a believer in the arts and putting out great work, but you're also a business person. You're a businessman. So there has to be consideration sometimes where you look at stuff and say, well, wait a minute, we can't film here. We got to film there. How do you balance those two very different parts and sides of your brain?
With Hello Darkness, that was a big consideration for us. The budget was too high, and it remained too high, and I greenlit it anyway. We made it as a period piece, and it's just simply more expensive film to make. And if we end up losing money on it, that's okay if we make a great film. Now, we'd love to make money on it. However, this is a great story. It's a great script and a great story, and the world needs great films. The world needs inspiring films, and I'm hoping that this thing catches fire and we can make our money back. And if not, we tried. Life is not worth living unless you're going to go out there and try. And I've done that many, many times. I started my own company. I failed. I started again. I failed. Finally succeeded with Paylocity. And I've succeeded a few other times with a couple other companies. My attitude is you keep trying and you keep trying things. And some of those things will work and some won't. I know there's a lot of Simon and Garfunkel fans out there. I know there's a lot of Paul Simon fans out there. And I think there's a lot of people who want to see a movie that's inspiring like this. One other thing about the movie, which is really important, I'm donating 100% of my profits to help eradicate blindness. So whatever money I make on this film is not going to me. It's going, per my promise to Sandy Greenberg, to help eradicate blindness. I have a little story. Do you have time for that?
Absolutely.
So my mother's maiden name is Greenberg. She was born in 1940, 2 months before Sandy. She was born in New York City. And my mother didn't want to get married. My mother was a lovely young woman, but she had very thick glasses. And because of that, she didn't want to pass that gene on to us. She was so embarrassed, but she was very vain about her eyes. And she didn't want to pass on that bad vision to anybody else. So my mother didn't want to get married. Her maiden name was Greenberg. So here we have another Greenberg in New York City, so close. And remember, this is a story about blindness. My mother passed on her vision to me. I'm now 60 years old. I've never worn glasses, never had to. And so my mother had perfect vision. And what we found out many, many years later is that the reason she had bad vision was because of an early fever that she had when she was a baby. And so it's just a very interesting story that vision played such a big role in my mother's life, that her maiden name was Greenberg, and that she was born and raised, as was my father, in New York City. Really what we're showing in this film, in Hello Darkness, is the nobility of the blind, of Sandy as one particular man who happens to be blind. Sandy spent his whole life trying to help other blind people. He started a whole nonprofit. This is who we're going to donate the profits from the film to, so please help support us. Sandy's goal is to end blindness so nobody ever has to do and deal with what Sandy had to deal with. And he's put millions of dollars behind it. Hopefully we can be successful with this film and put millions more. That's the whole goal of Wayfarer, to show the nobility and the unity of every human being, that some of us have autism, some of us are blind, some of us are deaf, some of us are older, whatever thing that someone thinks makes us lesser, our religion, our race, color of our skin, all of those things, our nationality, those are just coincidences. And we are all part of one human family. And if we could learn to love each other universally, that would change the world. And so the way Wayfarer is changing the world is by showing the nobility of one person at a time, one film at a time. Will and Harper, Ezra, now with Hello Darkness, we're showing these very different human beings in very different situations, but showing the common thread through all our films is showing that each person is noble.
Perfectly said. Thanks so much, Steve. So I want to mention as well, Jennifer, that Wayfarer is the producer of this podcast. We've been transparent about that from the start.
Absolutely. Steve is a lover of storytelling, and movies is part of that with the theaters, but also they've got media and the studios, which is the film company as well.
But as you just heard in the interview, obviously, I'm going to ask him the same questions I would ask as a journalist of anyone else. And when we get into the weeds about, who produces a podcast, who owns this or that, I'm probably a little overly sensitive about this as coming from a journalistic background as a reporter with the Chicago Sun-Times, where I started off. But as you know, Jennifer, and you've worked for all different types of companies, there's almost always a corporate entity behind the curtain. The main concern that I always have is keeping it behind the curtain. So, for example, when I was doing Ebert and Roeper, we were owned by Disney.
Right.
And we would review Disney movies on the show. And Michael Eisner at the time ran Disney, and he was very adamant about the separation of church and state.
Right.
To the point where I once reviewed a movie on that show that was directed by Michael Eisner's son, and I gave it a thumbs down.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I hope, is the value that I bring to, right now I'm at NBC5 in Chicago. I do reviews every week there, and it could be a Peacock series. It might be a Hulu series. It might be an Apple TV series. It could be a Universal Studios movie like Disclosure Day or The Odyssey. And before I left ABC to go to NBC, we made it very clear that I would be allowed to give my reviews without any worries about, well, this is by the same company, the same parent company.
Right. You've always been very honest. If you like something or if you don't like something, regardless of who produced it, you're going to give your honest opinion.
And the quote I always give through the years talking about this is Roger Ebert was good friends with the great director, Robert Altman. And they became very close friends. And Roger at one point, because he was a stickler for all that stuff, he said, what happens if I give you a bad review? What's it going to do to our friendship? And Robert Altman said, if you never gave me a bad review, why would I care about the good ones? So that's my approach to all of this. Very transparent about who our employers are. And I will say this, we've done 34, 35 and counting episodes of the movie of your life. And at no point during the making of any of these podcasts, the recording, the editing, has anybody from Steve Sarowitz's camp tried to talk about or even intervene in any way, shape, or form with the content of the podcast.
No, they're
you
not.
guys do your thing.
Right,
so
yeah.
That's just my journalistic footnote for you out there.
Perfect. Don't forget to subscribe and share the movie of your life with Richard Roeper, brought to you by Wayfarer Theaters.